Hello, language aficionados and curious listeners. A massive, warm welcome back to another episode of Idiom Insights. I'm Emma, and it's a genuine delight to be your guide as we continue our exploration into the wonderful world of English idioms. Thank you so much for joining us.
And a very enthusiastic hello from me, Jack, your partner in idiomatic discovery, ready once again to share some insights, examples, and perhaps a little bit of lighthearted banter along the way. We truly appreciate you dedicating your time to Idiom Insights today. Learning language is a journey, and we're thrilled to be on this leg of the trip with you.
Absolutely, Jack. And it's journeys like these that make learning so rewarding. Today, we've got 4 idioms that deal with enhancements, obliviousness, recklessness, and willful ignorance. These are phrases that add nuance and color to everyday English, helping you understand not just what is being said, but the feeling and implication behind the words. It's about getting closer to that natural flow of conversation.
You've hit the nail on the head, Emma. It's about understanding those layers. So, let's get ready to peel back the layers on today's expressions. Here on Idiom Insights, we're going to be examining, first, that lovely extra bonus, the icing on the cake, always delicious, metaphorically speaking. Next, failing to see the obvious, under your nose. How can something so close be so invisible? Then, abandoning good sense, throw caution to the wind. Sounds rather dramatic and perhaps a little risky. And finally, choosing to ignore, turn a blind eye, a conscious act of not seeing.
What a fascinating collection, Jack! They cover quite a spectrum of human behavior and perception. Now, before we start savoring the icing on the cake, just that little gentle reminder from your dedicated Idiom Insights hosts. If you're finding these explorations into English useful and enjoyable, please do consider hitting that subscribe or follow button on your podcast app. It's the easiest way to make sure you never miss an episode.
Yes, please do. We'd hate for you to miss out. And if you're feeling extra generous, a like or a positive rating really does give us a boost and helps other amazing English learners discover our community. Think of it as sharing the linguistic love. Okay, friendly request complete. Emma, are you ready to discuss that delightful extra layer, the metaphorical icing?
I certainly am, Jack. Let's start with the icing on the cake. This is a very positive and quite common expression. Jack, can you explain what we mean when we describe something as being the icing on the cake? It evokes a lovely image, doesn't it?
It really does. A cake is usually already a good thing, a treat. The icing just makes it even better, more special, more appealing. So, idiomatically, the icing on the cake refers to something extra that is added to a situation or event that is already good, making it even better, more pleasant, or more successful. It's an additional benefit or advantage that enhances an already positive experience. It emphasizes that extra bit of wonderfulness, though, interestingly, it can sometimes be used ironically to mean the opposite. An additional bad thing happening in an already bad situation, but the primary meaning is positive.
That's a crucial distinction, Jack. The primary positive meaning versus the occasional ironic negative use. But focusing on the positive, imagine you have a wonderful holiday planned. Great destination, lovely hotel. Then you find out you've been given a free room upgrade with a fantastic sea view. That upgrade would be the icing on the cake. The holiday was already set to be good, but the upgrade makes it even better. It's that unexpected, delightful extra that enhances the whole experience.
Absolutely. Or think about a student who works incredibly hard and achieves top marks in their exams. That achievement itself is fantastic. Then, the icing on the cake might be finding out they've also won a special award or scholarship, specifically because of those excellent results. The great results were the cake, and the award is the delightful icing on top, adding further recognition and benefit to their already successful outcome. It's that added layer of perfection or good fortune.
It truly captures that feeling of even better than expected. Now, let's listen to our friends, Mia and Mark. What positive situation are they discussing that had an extra delightful element?
Mark, wasn't that birthday party for Sarah absolutely lovely last night? The garden setting was beautiful, the food was delicious, and it was so nice catching up with all her friends and family. I already thought it was a perfect evening.
It really was fantastic, Mia. Sarah seemed so happy. Everything was so well organized, the weather stayed perfect despite the forecast, and seeing everyone mingling and laughing, It was just a genuinely warm and joyful celebration. I agree, it was already a wonderful party in itself.
Definitely. But then, do you remember towards the end of the evening when Sarah's brother, Tom, stood up? I thought he was just going to make a short thank you speech on her behalf.
Yes, I remember. But he didn't just make a speech, did he? He pulled out his guitar. I had no idea Tom could even play the guitar, let alone sing.
Me neither. And he didn't just play one song, he played a whole medley of Sarah's favorite songs from when they were growing up. He sang them beautifully too, and everyone started singing along. It was such a personal, heartfelt, and completely unexpected moment.
It really was magical. It added such a unique and special touch to an already brilliant party. Seeing Sarah's face light up during that performance, for me, Tom's surprise musical tribute was absolutely the icing on the cake.
Oh, I completely agree. The party was already perfect, but his performance just elevated the whole evening, making it even more memorable and special. Definitely the icing on the cake.
That's a perfect illustration. The party itself was already considered wonderful and successful by both Mia and Mark. That was the cake.
Exactly. Then, Tom's unexpected, personal, and beautifully performed musical tribute added an extra layer of delight and memorability. Mark and Mia both identify this wonderful surprise as the icing on the cake, highlighting how it enhanced an already excellent event. Listeners, what's been the icing on the cake for you recently? Share your positive extra moments.
Now let's move from delightful extras to things that are surprisingly overlooked. Our second idiom is under your nose. Emma, this phrase suggests extreme proximity, yet a failure to notice. How does that work?
It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it, Jack? How can you miss something literally right in front of you? But that's exactly what under your nose describes. If something is, happens, or exists under your nose, or sometimes right under your nose, it means it is in a very obvious place, extremely close to you, or happening right in front of you, yet you somehow fail to see it or notice it. It emphasizes the obviousness of the thing and the surprising lack of observation or awareness from the person involved. Often implies a slight degree of carelessness or obliviousness on their part.
Obliviousness despite obviousness. I like that. It captures the essence perfectly. The classic example, which I suspect many of us have experienced, is frantically searching the entire house for your keys or glasses, getting increasingly frustrated only to have someone else point out that they are sitting right there on the table directly in front of you. They were under your nose the whole time. You just weren't seeing them.
Absolutely. That's a universal experience. Or think about solving a puzzle or a riddle. You might struggle for ages, looking for a complex solution, only for someone to point out a very simple, obvious clue that was right there in the wording all along. You missed the answer that was hidden under your nose. It often happens when we overcomplicate things or aren't truly seeing what's right in front of us because we expect something different.
It really highlights that disconnect between physical presence and mental awareness. Let's tune into Mia and Mark again. What obvious thing is one of them failing to notice?
Mark, have you seen that new jar of coffee anywhere? I'm sure I bought one yesterday because the old one was almost empty. I wanted to make us both a coffee now, but I can't find the new jar anywhere in the kitchen cupboards.
The new coffee jar? Let me think. Did you put it away properly yesterday after unpacking the shopping? Are you sure it's not tucked behind the cereal boxes or something? Have a good look on the top shelf.
I've looked everywhere. I've checked the cupboard where we normally keep it, the cupboard above that one, even the pantry shelf where we keep the tea bags. It's definitely not there. Maybe I accidentally left it in the shopping bag. Or perhaps I only thought about buying it and forgot to actually pick it up at the supermarket. That's so annoying if I did.
Are you absolutely sure you've looked carefully on the counter by the kettle? You know, where we keep the sugar bowl and the toaster? Sometimes we put new things there temporarily when we first unpack them.
The counter? No, I didn't look there because we never keep the coffee jar there. It always goes straight into the cupboard. Pauses. Oh, wait a minute. Mark, look. What is that large brown jar sitting right there next to the sugar bowl, exactly where you just said?
The large brown jar labeled premium roast coffee? The one sitting about 6 inches from your elbow? Is that the jar you're looking for, perhaps?
Oh my goodness, it is! How did I not see that? I must have looked straight past it 5 times. I was so focused on searching the cupboards where it should be, I didn't even register it sitting right there in plain sight. It was literally under my nose the whole time. I feel so silly now.
Ha ha, that's a classic case. Mia was so convinced the coffee jar should be in the cupboard that she failed to see it in its actual, very obvious location right beside her.
Precisely. Mark gently points out its location, and Mia realizes with embarrassment that it was under her nose all along. Her focused search in the correct place made her completely oblivious to the item in plain sight. It perfectly demonstrates missing the obvious right in front of you. So, listeners of Idiom Insights, what have you lost only to find it hiding under your nose? Share your relatable stories.
Now, from overlooking the obvious, let's move to deliberately ignoring danger. Our third idiom is throw caution to the wind. Jack, this phrase sounds quite bold, perhaps even reckless.
It certainly implies a disregard for safety or prudence, Emma. To throw caution to the wind means to behave in a completely reckless or carefree way, deliberately ignoring potential risks, dangers, consequences, or sensible advice. It's about abandoning your usual caution and deciding to do something bold, risky, or impulsive, often for the sake of excitement, freedom, or achieving a particular goal quickly, without worrying about the potential negative outcomes. You're literally casting your caution aside.
Abandoning caution for impulse. That's a great way to summarize it. For example, imagine someone has a very secure but boring job. One day, completely on impulse, they decide to quit their job, sell their house, and use the money to travel the world indefinitely with no real plan. They are definitely throwing caution to the wind. They are ignoring financial security and conventional planning for the sake of adventure.
A very clear example. Or think about someone on a strict diet who suddenly decides to indulge in a huge, decadent feast of all their forbidden foods, not worrying about the calories or the impact on their diet plan for that one night. They are momentarily throwing caution to the wind, prioritizing enjoyment and indulgence over their usual careful eating habits. It often involves a conscious decision to ignore the sensible path.
It definitely implies a deliberate setting aside of usual prudence. Let's listen to Mia and Mark. Is someone acting recklessly or contemplating doing so?
Mia, I was looking at those brochures for adventure holidays again. You know, the ones with whitewater rafting, mountain climbing, maybe even skydiving.
Oh, those ones. They look exciting, Mark, but also slightly terrifying, especially the skydiving. Are you seriously thinking about booking one of those trips? You're usually quite careful when it comes to physical risks. Remember how nervous you were just going on the zip line last year?
I know I'm usually Mr. Sensible. I always check the safety ratings, read all the reviews, worry about insurance. But lately I've been feeling a bit bored, like my life is too predictable, too safe. Maybe I need a proper thrill, something completely outside my comfort zone.
Okay, wanting a thrill is one thing, but skydiving? That seems like a huge leap. Literally and figuratively, have you researched the safety aspects? The training involved? The potential risks?
Not really, that's the point. For once, I feel like I just want to do something completely spontaneous and wild. Just book it and not overthink it. Maybe I should just throw caution to the wind for once in my life, ignore the what-ifs, and just jump out of a plane. What do you think? Should I just go for it?
Wow, Mark, that's not like you at all. Wanting to throw caution to the wind like that? While a bit of spontaneity is good, maybe start with something slightly less extreme than skydiving? Perhaps the whitewater rafting first? Jumping out of a plane feels less like throwing caution to the wind and more like throwing yourself to the wind. Let's discuss the options carefully before you book anything impulsive.
You can really hear Mark's unusual desire for recklessness there. He explicitly talks about wanting to ignore his usual careful nature and potential risks.
Yes, he uses the phrase, throw caution to the wind himself to describe his desire to act impulsively and without his typical prudence. Mia recognizes this as uncharacteristic and advises a slightly less extreme approach, questioning if completely ignoring caution is wise in this specific high-risk scenario. It highlights the idiom's meaning of deliberately disregarding risk. Listeners, do you ever feel tempted to throw caution to the wind? When is it liberating? And when is it just foolish?
And finally, let's turn to our last idiom, which deals with ignoring something deliberately. Turn a blind eye. Emma, this implies sight, but choosing not to see. What's happening here?
That's a very insightful way to put it, Jack. Choosing not to see. To turn a blind eye to something means to deliberately ignore something that you know is wrong, improper, illegal, or problematic. You are aware of the situation, but you pretend not to see it or refuse to acknowledge it, often because dealing with it would be difficult, inconvenient, or might get you or someone else into trouble. It's a conscious decision to overlook wrongdoing.
So it's different from genuinely not noticing. This is knowing, but choosing ignorance or inaction. For example, if a parent knows their teenager is occasionally breaking a minor house rule, like staying up slightly past curfew, but decides not to make a big deal out of it every single time, they might be said to be turning a blind eye, perhaps choosing their battles.
Exactly. The choice is key. Or consider a manager who suspects an employee is taking extra long lunch breaks, but doesn't formally address it because the employee is otherwise very productive, and confronting them would cause hassle. That manager is essentially turning a blind eye to the minor rule breaking, perhaps deeming it not worth the trouble it might cause to enforce it strictly in this case.
It definitely implies awareness coupled with deliberate non-intervention. Let's hear Mia and Mark's final conversation. What situation are they observing where someone might be ignoring something they shouldn't?
Mark, you know how strict the recycling rules are in our area now? With the separate bins for paper, plastic, glass, and food waste, and warnings about fines if you mix them up?
Yes, extremely strict. We spend ages sorting everything correctly each week. Why do you ask? Have we done something wrong?
No, we haven't. But walking past the Hendersons' house this morning, just after the recycling trucks had gone, I couldn't help but notice their general waste bin was overflowing with things that clearly should have been in the recycling bins. Plastic bottles, cardboard boxes, glass jars, all mixed in together.
Really? The Hendersons? They know the rules just like everyone else. Did you see the recycling collectors take their bin? They're supposed to refuse bins that are obviously contaminated like that.
Well, that's the thing. I happened to be watching from the window. The collectors definitely saw the mixed waste. One of them even picked up a plastic bottle from the top and looked at it. But then they just shrugged and emptied the whole contaminated bin into the truck anyway.
They emptied it even though it was clearly wrong? So they basically just ignored the contamination? It sounds like the collectors decided to turn a blind eye to the problem this time. Maybe because they were running late or just didn't want the hassle of refusing the bin.
That's exactly what it looked like. They knew the rules were being broken. They saw the evidence, but they chose to ignore it and take the bin anyway. They definitely turned a blind eye. It makes you wonder what the point of us sorting everything so carefully is if they just ignore it when others don't bother.
That's a clear instance of the idiom in practice. The recycling collectors were aware of the problem, the incorrectly sorted waste, but chose not to act according to the rules.
Exactly. Mark identifies their action, or inaction, as turning a blind eye, meaning they deliberately ignored the wrongdoing they were aware of, likely for convenience. It perfectly illustrates the conscious choice to overlook something problematic. So, listeners of Idiom Insights, why do you think people sometimes choose to turn a blind eye? Is it ever justified?
And with that thought-provoking question, we conclude another exploration of fascinating English idioms. Let's quickly recap the 4 phrases we dissected today on Idiom Insights.
Another great session in the books. Today we covered the icing on the cake, an additional good thing that makes an already good situation even better. Under your nose, in an obvious place right in front of you yet unnoticed. Throw caution to the wind, to act recklessly or carelessly, ignoring risks. Turn a blind eye, to deliberately ignore something wrong or problematic that you know about.
Excellent. We sincerely hope that our extended discussions, detailed examples, and the dialogues have helped you gain a deeper understanding and confidence with these idioms. Remember, recognition and understanding are the foundations for use.
Couldn't agree more. Keep listening, keep learning, keep noticing. And if you found today's episode insightful and enjoyable, we would be absolutely delighted if you could spare a moment to leave us a like, a rating, or a brief positive review. Your feedback truly means the world to us.
And most importantly, please ensure you are subscribed or following Idiom Insights. It's the simplest way to join us for every new episode as we continue to explore the richness of the English language together. We love having you as part of our community.
We really do. So until next time, keep up your amazing work, stay curious, and find joy in every step of your language learning journey. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye, everyone. Take excellent care and happy idiom hunting.